Yeah, I think it's a difficulty. Tiger was successful, and I was part of that to ensure that the last government made a commitment to tax relief for games. We're currently with a new government that hasn't decided how it's going to balance the books currently, and that is still a decision that hasn't been taken. Or is there going to be a tax break policy or not? I think it's something that they should do. You know, I campaigned for it before, and I think it's something they definitely should do for a whole number of reasons, but not least of all the significance of the UK games industry that it has been before, that is slipping backwards in terms of its relative success. And I think it's something that needs to address, because the more companies that move abroad, and they are moving abroad because it's a lower risk. Yeah. If you've got to spend less money developing a game, then that's lower risk. And unfortunately, we've seen that move away, and unless we act quickly, and I know it's difficult for the government, but we've got to keep petitioning the government to say, look, we need this, because once you lose it, it's very difficult to get it back.
However, to end on a positive note, this is probably one of the best times over the last 5-6 years for the smaller studios and the startups. You're not looking for that £500,000, £750,000 investment to develop for the PlayStation 2 with £20,000 development kits, etc., etc., etc. You've got the 3, 4, 5-man development team, so there's a lot of opportunity for people entering the industry to join the smaller indie studios.
And I think it's a wider area. Let's be honest. If you do the art and animation course from Train2Game, or if you do a degree in those areas, you've got other skills. You know,
yeah, exactly.
You've also got.
That's a great point.
We have lecturers at our place that have worked on Harry Potter movies and have worked on adverts. You know, so there's all kinds of other arts and animations that you can do. One guy I particularly like is this guy called Joel Veach. He does some sort of two-dimensional animation kind of stuff, and he's just recently, because of the success of his internet-based stuff that he did just as a hobby, just recently had a big advert that he's been commissioned to do. You know, so there is opportunity, and with the internet, you can get your ideas out there. So there was a comedian recently who produced a video for a large independent band, but they'd seen his work and he just sent it and just set it to music. So I think there's opportunities if you've got skill, you know, even to take an existing soundtrack, do some animations or some ideas, build them up, get it out there, and people watching it, you get that people power, and that helps. That helps games company think, oh, there's something behind this now.
Yeah. So sticking with the art and animation course for a second. Benchmarking has been raised, and the question being asked is, when will the art and animation course be benchmarked alongside the other two courses? And it all talks about, the question also talks about the same level as, which I'm a little bit bemused on, because the art and animation course in terms of quality and content and work gone into it is exactly the same as the other two courses. But the benchmarking process is obviously now complete and in place from your team on the developer course and the designer course. The question asks really, are we looking to benchmark the art and animation course too? So
I think we should give some context here in case any of the people at home don't quite know about it. But the course that was developed for Tiger and Train2Game was a strong training course that both myself at the University of Bedfordshire and Mark Ailes at the University of Portsmouth, we undertook an exercise which said, okay, what kind of level is this at? What volume is there in this course? How many hours do you think it would take? And what kind of level in terms of what's called the qualifications and curriculum framework? So for a long time, there's been a national qualification framework, and people at home will be aware of GCSEs, and they'll be aware of a degree, and they're all at different levels. So the first year of a degree is benchmarked at level 4 of the qualifications and curriculum framework. And what we did was we said, okay, there are some level descriptors, you know, that are set out by the government, and say, okay, these are what we believe a first-year undergraduate student should do. Somebody who holds an HND or a foundation degree should have this kind of skill. People who have a degree is this. And it goes all the way up to doctorate. Okay? So what we did is we looked at the level and volume of the developer and designer course, and it was roughly at levels 4 and 5. And what we'll do now is, at some time with the animation course and art course, what we're going to do is do that same exercise. So to put it into a framework that shows some kind of expectation. So we do this because, of course, we want to know, because we're universities, people may migrate between the Train2Game courses and the degree courses. So we need to know how does that work, and we do that quite a lot for other kinds of accredited courses and other training courses, but also because the industry needs to have some idea about, well, what does it mean?
Yes.
So we've done that. So I think the next stage will be that we'll work with Train2Game, we'll work with Tiger, and work with the industry, and we'll use our expertise as people who work within that framework to do that. So I think the answer is quite soon.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. And sticking with the art and animation, in fact, sorry, all of the courses. The job market. We're obviously in a recession at the moment. What do we as a panel feel like the job market is? What's our take on the job market at the moment? And how strong do we think it is for the graduates, both on Train2Game courses and other universities, in terms of them completing their courses and getting jobs? How strong is the job market in the UK, and I would say abroad as well?
Well, I'll kick off because you guys will know lots about it, but I just want to make a general point, which is just the whole job market in the UK and around the world is a little bit leaner than it was. People are looking for, what are you going to give me for what I give you?
Yeah.
So if you go for a job interview, you've got to be prepared that, you know, they're not just going to think, you're a nice chap, I'll give you lots of money. You've got to go in and say, I'm going to make a difference to you. And if you can do that, then they're going to invest in you. But you've got to look that they're going to be investing. They're going to want you for about 3 to 5 years. They're going to be paying you, let's say, £25,000 a year. But they also have to pay national insurance contributions. They have to give you training. And they're looking at between £150,000 and £250,000 investment. That's what they're hoping you'll stay for. So you've got to say to them, I'm worth that money. And I've got to tell you, we have graduates, of course, going out a lot. And I say to all of my students now, you've got to show that you're worth it. Because if you're not, a few years ago, they'd take anybody because they were awash with money. They'd be, they were prepared to take risks because there was so much money around. Now they're a little bit more cautious. And there are jobs for those who can really make a difference. One of our graduates that I stay in contact with now recently found himself unemployed because the studio closed down. And I said, oh, what are you going to do for a job? He said, well, I'm choosing which of the 5 job offers I'm going to take. So yes, there's a recession, but he's a very good guy, and he's got 5 people that saying, we want to take you. So he had his choice. So,
what about the other side of the job market? The opportunity of not necessarily going to get a job within one of the established studios, developers or publishers, but what about looking to set up on your own? Is the opportunity better now with the advent of Android and the iPhone and smaller platforms that people can begin to develop on their own?
Absolutely. Not only is it better to set up as an independent developer for all the reasons you've just said, it's and that's what I said earlier. It's probably the best time for the last 5, maybe 8 years to actually do that. But it's also the industry is becoming much more like the film industry. They outsource a lot of work. They bring in fixed-term contractors. They bring in people specifically for jobs, be it for a 2-month placement, be it for a 1-year placement, etc., etc. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to move between companies as an independent contractor, as well as set up on their own.